the Adventures in Awakening show. I'm Tracy Spring, and this is the epic exploration of the depths of who you really are and the highest purpose of why you're here. So come along with us on an adventure in awakening. We have an amazing guest today, Miceli. It's absolutely one of my favorite people in the whole world. I have known Alan since 1987, I think. So in the 80s, I've known Alan. He's a dear, dear, dear old friend. And Alan was born in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario, Canada. So way north in Ontario. He studied classical guitar at the Toronto Conservatory of Music. He's recorded 4 albums of classical music and also some fun popular songs, all original music. He learned to meditate in 1974, Transcendental Meditation, and then he became a meditation instructor and worked with the great spiritual master, His Holiness Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, for 20 years. And he's taught hundreds of people meditation. I met Alan at an Ayurvedic clinic and meditation retreat center in Ontario, Canada in the 80s. And I was working there as an Ayurvedic masseuse, and he was a meditation instructor there. And you were kind of my boss, Alan. Do you remember that? You were kind of.
Yes, kind of.
Kind of. Yes. So I had to behave around you. But you were dating my sister, Dawn, at the time. And
I was.
And you soon became a wonderful part of our whole family. And we all consider you one of our brothers in our family. So we just love you to death, love you to life. And I've been inspired by your music for so many years, Alan. Alan is such a gifted guitarist. And also, I'm inspired by the simple way that you live. I've always thought of you as an urban yogi. And you're just a pure and simple spiritual person that makes your life in this busy world. So we'll be talking about that today, how you function in the world from this beautiful, pure, and spiritual place. So welcome, Alan. I'm so glad you're here today.
Thank you. It's nice to see you. And it is true about your family. I always think of your family as my second family.
Yes. Yeah. We're so lucky to have you as part of our family. I just feel so blessed.
I know. Yeah. Remember I was at your sister's place for Thanksgiving, and everyone was there except you.
I know.
I guess you live in the
US. Make it.
You know?
I hope to make it next time. But you just fit right in, Alan, with our family.
That's funny. Well, I think the first time I met your family, I baked a pie for them. I was like, oh, like there's a pie. I don't think anybody even noticed. It's like, oh yeah, there's a pie here. There's some other guy here, but there's a pie here.
You were immediately welcomed. Immediately, we were so happy to see you. And Alan has been a baker for how many years? Alan, have you been a baker?
You know, when I first went to work for Maharishi in Lac-Beauport, Quebec, they put me in the kitchen. And that was in 1977.
Oh, wow. So a long time. Yeah. And he's been working in different bakeries all across Canada.
Yeah.
Ever since.
When I wasn't teaching meditation classes, I was, a lot in the food industry. Yeah.
Yes.
A lot of different types of applications.
A masterful baker, I have to say. He makes the most exquisite, delicious chocolate things and pastry things. And oh my gosh, just unbelievable what he can create. And so, it's always fun to have Alan around. So, and also you're such a gifted guitarist, Alan. Such a gifted guitarist. And he was classically trained, as I said, and yet he comes up with his own original songs. And so actually, Alan, can you tell us how the music comes to you? How do you get inspired to write your beautiful original songs?
I know that a lot of people think that music is inspired by having a love affair. And this is why musicians are promiscuous, right? Because they need inspiration. And it's not really necessarily the case. I think music is inspired by music itself. And so you pick up the guitar and you play with it. You play with sounds and rhythms. And out of that comes, a few notes that, oh, I like the way that sounds. Oh, I like the way this chord is. And then from that, you build a melody, and then, you have to work at it a little bit. So you have an A section and a B section, maybe a C section. So the song makes sense. But that initial inspiration just comes from play. You just take the guitar or a keyboard or drum, whatever, and you just see what comes out of it, and just fooling around with different sounds, playing with the sounds. And out of that comes the inspiration, and the rest is just a bit of work. I think it's very important that you don't work too hard to create music. Music has to pour out of you. I mean, all of art is the expression of being, right? Because when somebody listens to your music, you want them in a way to transcend, where they get that, oh my God, it's so beautiful. It's like you're pulling them in a little bit. So if you can function from the level of being and portray that through your music or your art or your writing, then I think you've really got somebody. Then you've really hit the mark. So this is purpose of music. I think the real purpose of art.
Beautiful.
And audio transcendent.
Beautiful. And you've recorded already 4 albums of songs. Do you have favorite songs that you've recorded?
Some that I like playing them more than others, but I liked all of them. And also they belong to different periods. So sometimes going back 20 years and playing a song is like, oh, I felt different now than I did then. So yeah. I always think that must be difficult for a pop artist, because you write a song when you're 19 and you have your teenage angst and you write a song out of that. And now you're like 43 and you have to go back and play that same song and you think, well, I don't feel that way anymore. So things evolve and change. But yeah, I think most of the songs stand the test of time.
Beautiful. I love Alan's music. It's perfect music to play while doing yoga and just wanting to relax. And it's just so soothing and nurturing, your music. And he also has some wonderful songs with some great lyrics. And he's got the most soft and soothing voice. So I invite you all to check out Alan Miceli's music. I will be putting the information below so you can check out where to find Alan Miceli's music for yourself. And he will be playing some of his music today for us, and I'm so excited about that. So we'll have a live concert from Alan Miceli a little bit later on. Now, I wanted to know, Alan, you first started to meditate. How old were you when you first started to meditate?
20.
20?
Mm-hmm.
So how did you come to learn to meditate? How did that happen?
There was a couple of incidences. So one day I was watching a movie about this American that was drafted into the army, and he was a yogi, and he could do all these amazing things. Like they would have to hold up buckets of sand, and he could control his mind and hold them up way longer than anybody else. And in the beginning of it, they didn't really know what to do with this guy. It was very strange. But at the end of the film, he had everybody convinced, in doing a spiritual practice, they were all sitting at the end of their bunks in lotus meditating. I thought, well, that's pretty cool, And then I was sitting in class one day, because I was in the last year of high school. And one girl turned to her friend and says, oh, I'm going to this lecture on transcendental meditation tomorrow night. I heard a friend of mine tried it and it really helped her get her head together. And I thought, oh, I'm going to learn. So I called the library that night, when I got home, and it was that evening. And I went, and it was like you were going along, and then this thing came up of meditation. It's like this light went off in your head. And it was like, I am going to learn that. And I was so excited about it. I was just so taken by the whole idea of it. And so yeah, that was what led up to me being initiated in transcendental meditation.
And what was your first experience like?
I think initially I had no idea what I was doing. It took a while, because I think, everybody has this idea that when you learn to meditate, the whole idea is to stop thinking. It's really hard. It really doesn't work that way, so just to be easy and to just, think the mantra easily and comfortably. This whole thing, this was a new thing. But no, very early on, I started to have some good experiences, and just during the day feeling like really, really good or really happy for no particular reason. And I just loved sitting to meditate. It wasn't a discipline at all. It was a joy. This was an added luxury in my life. It wasn't like, oh, I have to meditate now. Oh my God. And it was like, no, this feels lovely. And so yeah, I took to it like a duck to water. Yeah.
Tell us some of those experiences that you started to have.
The one experience I remember very clearly, sitting in my room meditating, and I disappeared for a while. And I didn't know where I went. And at some point I got frightened and grabbed my chair because I disappeared. And it was the first experience of clear transcending that I had. And it was a little startling coming out of it. But yeah, that was one of my best experiences.
And how did it feel afterwards? Did you feel different?
Boy, that was a while ago. I think I always felt like it's like a sense of euphoria, sense of bliss. Yeah, early on. And I remember I'd come out of my meditation and people would be like, "What are you on? What are you taking?" I would like to get some of that, whatever it is that you're doing. I want some of it. I'd be like, "Oh, I'm just meditating." It's like, "Oh, I thought you were taking some pills or something." Yeah.
And then you became a teacher soon after that. Tell us about your journey to become a teacher.
That was a while after. It was like, I think I learned in 1974 to learn to meditate. So now teacher training was 1985.
Okay.
So this was a lot of years of meditating now. So there was learning cities and all of that.
Tell
That's
us
why
about the cities. Can you tell us a bit of what that
well,
is for those listeners that don't know what that is?
well, the philosophy of the cities is interesting. So essentially, all of existence arises out of the transcendent, out of pure being, out of isness. So if you could bring your mind to the level of being, the mind could be quiet enough at the level of being, and then to introduce an intention, you could literally manifest anything that you wanted. I mean, life is arises out of pure intention. So this is what cities are, right? Transcending, introducing an intention, and out it comes. Now, I think most people do not have minds quiet enough for that to manifest in a pure way. But so it's practice. It's practice manifesting. Also, it's opening up Kundalini, because the energy opens at the base of the spine and it's like whack, and this energy comes up and then the body comes up. So this is the whole thing about levitating with cities. Now, to be clear, nobody really levitates. I've never experienced, but the body shoots up. And I think it's a way of opening the energy at the base of the spine. So very powerful techniques. Yeah.
Beautiful.
It's also,
Go ahead. Go ahead.
It's also toys that we get stuck in. Now at this stage, it just looked like toys that I played with years and years ago,
And so that led you actually first to go to Purusha, which is a group of kind of monks that Maharishi created.
Yeah.
And so you were a monk for a while. Can you tell us about how that came about and what that experience was like?
Well, first of all, someone said, we were on Purusha, and someone said, are you a monk? And he said, well, no, I'm not really a monk. And he said, well, what's your day like? And he said, well, we get up in the morning and we meditate we do spiritual practices for about, an hour and a half. And then we kind of work within the household. And everybody had different aspects, whether you worked in the kitchen or housekeeping or something, or did administration. And then you went back, and then you did another hour and a half of spiritual practice, or maybe 2 hours. And then in the evening, there was, of course, the Vedas were recited, and you listened to that. And he listened to all that. He said, yeah, you're a monk.
That's right.
I said, you get paid for any of this? No. So, yeah, I think at the time, I really wanted to just focus on my spiritual practice. I was very excited about becoming a monk. I just was very excited about it. And again, of course, they always threw me in the kitchen, and this is how I learned how to work in the kitchen, because they kept throwing me. It's like, oh, I remember, this is funny. So we're in the Philippines, and there's 600 of us in a hotel, 600. And I get this little note under my door saying, would you like to make something sweet for Purusha? 600 people. And I said, well, I have very limited experience with this. I don't really. Said, no, we'll give you some recipes. So I had like 2 recipes on a piece of paper. And we're in this hotel, and there's a kitchen, and the kitchen is at the top floor of this hotel. And the remember, the elevator only went to like floor 9, and the bakery was on floor 11. So we had to haul everything up. And I made so many mistakes, and the volume was so huge. But through trial and error, I finally learned, okay, to make things work. So it was quite a thing doing that. But that was a big part of Purusha. And then, of course, after we left the Philippines, the opportunity to do teacher training came up, and I really wanted to be a teacher. So we went to Avon Park, Florida for 8 months, and then, of course, landed in India to finish teacher training. And so that was actually also part of Purusha. But
So what was it like to do teacher training? What was that experience like for you?
Very intense focus. Everything had to be perfect. Everything had to be memorized. It was hard, but fulfilling at the same time, again, being a teacher of meditation, what is it? We're opening the awareness of being for people, giving them the opportunity, a technique to open their awareness to pure consciousness. What a gift, well, how fortunate to be the vehicle for that. So that was a great privilege. So the work was well worth it. And then, of course, Maharishi was so good at training you that when you stepped out into the field to teach, you were prepared times 10. You just were. And so it was a great joy to do that.
And then you went to Toronto and you taught 500 people.
Yeah, it was a time of public awareness campaign. So they were putting television programs out, and people were coming, like we were filling halls of, maybe 200 people were coming to lectures. And so I would be teaching 11, 12 people every weekend. And it was like this very intense time. So everything was perfect in terms of timing. So the opportunity was there. So it was fun. Living in the biggest city in Toronto. And our TM center, our meditation center, was at Yonge and Bloor, the business center of Toronto. And we were in a high rise. So, well, how funny, how odd. How odd. Not out in the country, not in some rural setting, no, at Yonge and Bloor in a high rise. That's where our meditation center was,
And what was your experience when you taught someone? When they would come in and they would sit down and you would go through the puja and give them their mantra. What was that experience like for you?
Well, first of all, when you perform puja, it's quite transformative. And it's funny, because it's a little ritual. And we don't really talk about that much in the West, about the power of ritual. We do this little simple puja, which is really invoking the Vedic, the Vedic tradition, Vedic tradition of masters, bringing them into being. And it's such a simple little thing of offering fruit and flowers and incense in that simple little ceremony. It's quite transformative, So that is the first thing. And then teaching people is always wonderful, because sometimes they have very clear experiences and sometimes they don't. Sometimes it takes a second or third day, and taking them through it. People have funny expectations of what meditation is. And the beauty of Maharishi's teaching is that he makes the teaching so clear. So by the third or fourth day of instruction, the person is very clear about how to meditate. And I think a lot of other traditions don't take that time. And that was the beauty of Maharishi's teaching. So that was fun to do that. Always fun to do that,
Did you see a transformation in the people's eyes once they got their mantra?
Not always initially, but over time. The nicest thing was when you'd see somebody like a year later, and you would have been their teacher, and that was really wonderful to see that kind of transformation, or to see that they were taking some advanced course, and it's like, oh, I started them on that. Or people would stop you and say, oh, you're my teacher, and that was always a really wonderful experience.
Such a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
So when you look back upon that now and you think, oh, I taught hundreds of people to meditate, how do you feel about that in your life? Do you feel good about that?
Yeah, I think no better occupation, really. No greater occupation, I don't think. Yeah. What greater gift can you give anyone?
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Now in your life, you live a very simple life. You brought this this training and experience of living a very simple spiritual life. You brought that out into the world, and you've been working at a job in bakeries, and you had a house for a while, and now you have an apartment, and you're living your life in the world. Can you share with us what that is like to be such a deeply spiritual soul that is living in the world? What is that like for you? As I said, when we were starting off, I think of you as an urban yogi, because I know for years I lived in Victoria, Canada, and you were there, and I would see you biking around on your bike and going to the bakery and going to your apartment, and your apartment was so sparse, and you would have your guitar and that a tambura was in your apartment, and just a little puja area in your apartment, and it felt like an ashram, your apartment. And I always thought of you as just living such a beautiful spiritual life, but then you would go out and do your job and and live in the world. And I always thought it was so amazing to watch you do that in such a powerful way. So I just wondered if you would share with the people listening that might also feel very deeply spiritual, but they're trying to figure out, how do I live in the world?
Right. Well, the first thing is when you talk about when you first learn a spiritual practice, it's more conducive to be in a quiet setting, like an ashram or in the country or something like that. But after a while, you notice that being can be experienced anywhere at any moment. And so I think it's like the Marshy's analogy of dyeing the cloth. You know, you've got to take the cloth and put it in the dye, and then you got to take it out and put it in the sun, and then back into the dye and back into the sun. So the whole process of being an urban yogi is sitting and having your spiritual practice, connecting to being, and then taking it out into the world. And in the world, you lose some of it, but you maintain some of it. And so it becomes this practice of locating being, experiencing being, and then taking it into the world, and then coming back to being, and then back into the world. And I think this is how being becomes stabilized in your daily life, because the idea is that you have it all the time. That's the game, right? That there's no longer this going in and coming out, but that being remains at any moment, at any time, in the worst of circumstances, in the best of circumstances, being exists. And so life is a great spiritual practice, and not to feel like you have to defend yourself from it, but just to be fully present within it and use it as your spiritual practice. Not just the sitting of meditation or your quiet time at home, but also every moment of every day is an opportunity for spiritual practice.
And can you tell us some techniques or tidbits of knowledge for people that can help them in their daily life? While they're at their job and interacting with people, what can they do to maintain that spiritual practice?
My favorite quote, that the way that is the great way is easy for those with no preferences, right? That I am not in control, and I don't have to be right, and just to allow life to move through you, not try to control everything that happens in our lives, because control is fear, right? Is fear. I'm afraid that if I don't control things, things are not going to work out well. And if you learn to let go and to trust, everything will work out to the very best. So that's a very good tool to use in life. That's the whole idea of not controlling and letting go. Let go and let God. Isn't there a lovely saying like that?
Yes.
Let go and let God.
Yes.
Yeah. So.
And you were saying also about accepting
Yes.
what is.
Accepting life fully as it is, and not taking people exactly as they are and not trying to change them, not thinking that I have to fix you, I have to save you. No, you are perfect exactly in the way that you are. As we say, life is up and life is down, and it is right and it is wrong, and it is the nature of life. It is perfect in that way. It makes life interesting.
Beautiful, beautiful. What would you say is the number one thing for people to do or know about in their life for them to progress in their awakening?
First of all, is to have a spiritual practice at home. Some time set aside in your life for your spiritual practice. Very, very important. Aside from the fact that, getting a good night's sleep, exercising, having a sensible diet. Okay, you have these things in place. Then you must have a spiritual practice. You must bring your awareness to the field of being. This is critical. This is the difference between life and suffering, and a life in bliss. Okay, life is always as life is. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. But if we are connected to being, then it's fine. Then we're not affected. We're the boat that is anchored. We're not the boat that is at the mercy of the winds and the waves. We are anchored in being, and therefore life comes and it goes and it does what it does, and we remain connected to being. That is the name. That is the game that we're involved in life, the game of life. Eckhart Tolle talks about this. He says the most important thing is to know who you are. The most important thing, no matter accomplishing this, accomplishing that, the most important thing is to know who you are as separate from the field of activity, separate, established in being, perform action, from the Gita, Bhagavad Gita,
And so who are we, Alan? Who am I? Who are you?
Some fellow was sitting with Gangaji once. Do you know what Gangaji is?
Yes, I
Spiritual
do.
teacher in the US. And she asked him to describe himself, and he described himself as a kind and gentle person. And and she took that away from him because she said that was an identification, and you're identifying with a particular behavior, and you can't do that because being cannot be identified. I am that. What is that? What is that? I am pure unmanifest being. What is that? You can't point at it. You can't say, oh, there it is. Oh, wait a minute, it's under the couch. Let me get it. So how do I answer the question, who am I? I am that. That is the truth of it. Am I a baker? Am I a pastry chef? Am I a meditation teacher? Am I a musician? These are things that I do. It's not who I am, and it's hard, right? Because we identify with that. We identify with who we are. We identify with our financial status, our place in society. This is who we identify. And if you take away that, we feel threatened. But no one can take away being or isness. No one can touch that. And if that is who you are, and you're good.
Can you tell us some qualities of this being and isness?
Omnipresent, ever the same, unchanging. Bliss, not blissful, but bliss. It's blissful when it's stirred, right? So, ever the same, omnipresent being. Yeah.
Unchanging, peaceful, whole.
Peace because it's ever the same, right? You can't find peace in a field of change. You may feel peaceful because you have real estate and you think, well, okay, that's going to change. At least it's going to change slowly or predictably. But even that changes. That is in the field of change also. But being is ever the same. Ever the same. Yeah.
And what does that feel like to you, Alan, when you feel that?
It's a sense of inner contentment. That everything is fine. I'm home. I'm home. That's one of the first things I noticed when I first started learning meditation, that I would travel and I'd be in, some stranger's house, and you'd always feel uncomfortable, different energies, but I would sit to meditate and I'd be home. So, yeah, we can think of meditation as going home. Being as being at home. You're safe, always safe.
Beautiful, beautiful. And would you say that a mantra-based meditation is the best type, or, what would you say about the different types of meditations? You hear about so many different types these days. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, a path to being is interesting, because look at Eckhart Tolle as an example. Went into a deep depression, came out of it and recognized being. There's a story of a man that was in prison, and he kept getting into trouble, so they kept putting him into solitary confinement. And in that experience of just being by himself, he recognized being. He realized being in that experience. So it really comes down to what works. What works? What is your path to being? Is it the use of a mantra? Is it using a breath? Is it through your religious practice, through Christianity? All of those are viable, reasonable approaches to being. And no one can really say this is right for everyone. I think it's different for everybody. Using meditation is my way, is my practice. And I've used mantras. Yes, I've used Vipassana meditation. That also I find works very well. Listening to Vedic chanting is also very good. These are things that I found helpful. The Hatha yoga is very good because you can't overemphasize the importance of the condition of the physical body in the facilitation of transcendence, because you have to look at the body like a glass of water, right? If the water is clear, then it clearly reflects sunlight. If the water is murky, then it doesn't. If the body is tired, stressed, it cannot reflect being in a clear way. So it's very important that we take very good care of the body. I always think of the body as like we've got this, it's like a Maserati. It's this finely tuned instrument. And we treat it like a truck instead of treating it like this finely tuned instrument in the way that, with how we sleep and what we eat and things like that. And if we did that, it is capable of tremendous happiness. Tremendous happiness. But it needs to be taken care of. So those two things, the mental practice of meditation, however you want to approach that, and taking care of the body, those two things, very important.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Ayurveda is also, can't say enough about Ayurvedic medicine, because Ayurvedic medicine is how to produce an enlightened being. That's what Ayurveda is. It's not like that the dissolution of disease, removal of disease. It's how to produce an enlightened being. It's like, wow, far beyond Western medicine's model of health. It's like, are you in a state of bliss? Then, okay, then you're healthy.
And so what would you give me the 3 top points of Ayurveda that you would recommend to people?
Diet according to dosha. Ayurveda, and of course, meditation. Diet, meditation. There's so many modalities in Ayurveda. The Panchakarma is really good too. Just going through like seasonal cleanses. I think that's important too. If you've never done one, I think it's important. Shirodhara is my favorite. I'm Vata dosha, right? I don't know if your friends know, your viewers know what Vata dosha is, but it's the predominance of air and space in the body. And Shirodhara is pouring oil back and forth across the forehead, and it is the most soothing thing that I've ever experienced in my life.
That was my job, to give
Giving
those.
Shirodhara?
Remember, I was the masseuse that gave those.
Wow, that is so calming to the mind. That is amazing.
Yes.
So yeah, Ayurveda. Yeah, it's kept me healthy for a long time. I'm almost 70 now.
Wow.
I go through years without being ill. Years. There's really nothing wrong with me physically. Usually something breaks down. It's a lot of years of why I am in really good health. And I have Ayurveda to thank for that.
That's beautiful. Do you do yoga?
I do the sun salutations every morning.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. I think that you've got to move the energy in the body.
Yeah.
When you go for a walk or you do sun salutations or some form of exercise. I don't think stressing the body is necessarily a good idea, but working within the breath is good. Yeah, but yeah, yeah.
Wow, you look so amazing. Every time I see you, you don't change one bit. You look exactly the same.
Oh, thanks.
Joyful, youthful spirit.
Yeah. Uh, I guess people say that I'm lucky. Is it lucky that I chose, yoga when I was in my 20s? I don't know. I don't know. I guess so. Luck is a funny thing.
I think it is choice. It's a daily choice. What do we choose? Do we choose to do something that's uplifting and nourishing for the body, or do we choose to do something that is not good for the body, toxic for the body? And so we're
Yeah.
going to go either on this path towards feeling well and healthy and yeah, uplifted, or we're going to go to this path downwards of feeling worse and worse and worse and going towards illness. So we can,
Mhm.
and every choice we make during the day, don't you find? Every choice, what we
Yeah.
eat, when we go to bed, whether we meditate or not, whether we exercise or not, these are
Mhm.
little tiny choices. We think, oh, that doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. It
Yeah.
all adds up and it all matters. It all
Mhm.
matters.
But Tracy, if when I look at, people that I work with, if if you don't know what being is and you've never experienced it, you don't know that it's a choice. What
That's
you
true.
know is the pleasures of the senses,
Hmm.
of the intellect. And so that's where they go. It's like no one has shown them something else.
Hmm.
And you can't kind of drag them to it. It's just something that they have to come across on their own whenever the time is right. But once you've known that, that is where the huge change occurs, because you're like, oh my God, this is amazing. I want more of that. What do I have to do to get more of that? Do I have to go to bed early? Okay, I'm going to bed early. Do I have to eat like that? Okay, I'm going to do that. You get addicted to that experience, and in a good way, in a very good way. And then you're motivated. You're motivated for that something more. But you have to have that experience. And I guess that's the thing, isn't it? You know, you have to show them that, oh, look, there's something amazing here. But yeah.
That's right. That's exactly right. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to do this show is to bring it out to more people that might not know about this kind of thing and that they can start thinking, oh, meditation, what's that? Oh, yoga, what's that? Or let me try that. Or, Ayurveda, what's that? So it gets it out a little bit more to people that might not know about it,
Hmm.
you know?
Yeah, and we have to present it as a way of enjoying life, not as a discipline, not as
Hmm.
some sort of austere thing, but
Hmm.
as joy and like the Venus, the
Yes.
luxury, not
Yes.
the austerity of Saturn, but
Yes.
the luxury of Venus, the luxury and the wisdom of Jupiter. Uh,
Yes.
yes,
I
yes,
love that you're bringing in the planets. That's wonderful.
yeah, yeah. You go back to the power of ritual. It's not present here. You know what
Yeah.
I think about it is like, one thing that we all experience when you get married, is you got married and I got married, right?
Yes.
A little simple ceremony, not complicated, right? Half an hour,
Mm.
exchange a few words. How life transforming is that little ceremony? And what is it? A few words exchanged,
Mhm.
and your whole life is completely different after that.
Yes.
Think of
Yeah.
it even in terms of astrology. Now, all of your houses are now lined up. His family, your wealth,
That's
his wealth,
right. That's
all
right.
of it is all lined up. That one little half hour that you spent. Yeah. So rituals.
Very important, very powerful.
Yeah.
And now
Transform.
you're divorced, my dear. How is that going?
Well, Alan's still the same.
Oh, I love that.
What's changed? Really nothing much. I mean, everything has changed and nothing has changed, right? I mean, isn't it true? I mean, I mean, I guess, were you single for a period after you separated from Mark?
10 years.
All
Mhm.
right. So how was that?
A relief.
Yeah. But
And yes, the same. As
the
I'm
same.
inside,
You
I'm
really
the
are the
same.
same.
Yeah.
I mean, another person can come in your life and they can be distracting for, for a while, but after like 6 months, there you are.
Yeah.
And all of life is really just, how are you? If you're fine, the world is fine. If you're not fine, the world isn't fine, and no one's going to fix it for you. No one is going to fix that. So, the world is as you are. And if you thought about that, then we would no longer be victims in the world. Do we want to change our outer circumstances? Then change your inner circumstance. And the outer will change also. So, yeah, that inner technology, priceless. Yeah. So
Priceless.
it's beautiful that you teach people meditation, so that, it's a
Thank you.
beautiful thing. Yeah, it's
Thank you.
it's the highest thing you can do.
I agree. I agree. It comes first with what
Yeah,
Tom and I do. It comes first.
yeah,
And again, we both started in the transcendental meditation movement, but I kind of went off to be with Maharishi's student, Deepak Chopra, and bringing his version of the Vedic meditations, the same heritage, the same, it comes from the
right.
same Vedic tradition, but bringing that out in the world and just making it available to the world, not even charging,
Yeah.
you know? Everybody can come for free. Meditation's free. Come. You know what I mean? Do you think you're gonna come back for another lifetime, Alan, or is this gonna be it for you?
Well, I mean, it doesn't really matter, I suppose, does it? Because evolution always moves towards more and more. So whether I come back and continue on this plane or another plane, does it really matter? I don't know. It's just the next thing, right? It's the next thing. Yeah. We I think we give Earth a hard time. It's so hard here and so difficult here. Well, no, it's not really. It's not really that bad. It's not. It's a beautiful planet. I mean, it's incredible. Look at it. It's phenomenal. I mean, what we've done to it is another story, but as is, quite lovely.
It is. We're very blessed to be here, to have this experience.
Yeah. And to have this opportunity to evolve and grow, right?
Yes.
This experience of duality.
Yes.
Experience of duality. There's another thing we can talk about is Adyashanti talked about this once as an idea. He said that God created the earth and the human beings on it as a way of becoming aware of his own self, right? Because in the beginning, what you have is pure unmanifest being and you have nothing else. So in order for God to appreciate himself, he had to
Or
create
herself.
space or herself. Well, we say
Itself.
himself, but it's neither male nor female,
It's
right?
neutral.
Because
That's right.
it's not relative.
Right.
But in order for him, her, or it to become aware, he had to create this sense of duality. There had to be God, the object of appreciation, and the space between. Those three things had to become present. So in the experience of living on Earth, in this experience of duality, we have that space where God can be aware of his own existence, and he's doing it through you and through me. And isn't that amazing to think about that?
Amazing.
Right? Because otherwise there's just God. Can't see himself. He needs your help.
That is the whole thing. It's we are that expression of God, that oneness, the creator, that and the creator created infinite diversity by curving back upon itself, right? It created infinite diversity in order to get to know itself, experience itself.
Experience itself, yeah.
And so we're all just expressions of God. Here we're interacting with other expressions of God, and it's all one. It's all the illusion of separateness, the illusion of, infinite diversity, but it's all one thing. Right. And so I am you, Alan, you are me. And I look pretty good, I think, looking at you.
Beatles song, I am me and you, I am I and you are you, and we are all together.
That's right,
Is that a Beatles
exactly.
song?
It
Yeah,
is.
and we
That's
are all
right.
together.
That's right.
Yeah, yeah. Uh,
Yes, it's all just this grand illusion. We're all playing different roles. We get so ingrained in these roles. No, I am female and, this age and this personality and this thing, and I'm doing this in the world, and I have these sisters, and I have this job, and I have this, and this is who I am. And
yes,
we get so identified with that. And it's like, okay, time to allow that to fall away, fall away, fall away, and realize, oh my gosh, maybe I am just a spirit, soul, or being that is beyond this physical body. And even before that, I am the oneness, the one being, the
right,
God. So
right.
there's
Mm,
so many different layers to ourselves when
mm,
we let go and of the different levels. We go back and go back and go back, and it's all just one. It's all just one.
but if I think for most of us, it's frightening as you take away all our support systems, take it all away. Wow,
Yes.
wow,
Yes.
take all of it away and say, what are you? it that's it's frightening because you're out in space with, what's that the Buddhist saying? The bad news is you're falling from an airplane and you have no parachute. And the good news is there's no ground. There's no ground. So
That's a
they're
good one.
just out in empty space with nothing to hold on,
That's right.
nothing to grasp onto.
That's right.
Ooh. You talk about life as a spiritual practice, think about that.
Yes.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
Yes. It is scary. It is scary to kind of
Yeah.
go to
Yeah.
the
It's
depths of
fun
who
being,
you really are.
yeah. It's fun talking to you because I rarely get to actually talk about spirituality with you
Mm-hmm.
because, well, most people aren't interested.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Or to go into this depth is just like, it's not, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
who do you talk to about this?
Yep. That's exactly why I'm doing this show. I'm having open conversations about this because
Yeah.
people don't generally talk about this, and it's time that we just openly
Yeah.
talked about it. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
that's the purpose of it. And I
Yeah.
love talking to you, Alan, because you're just such a humble, simple person in the world. You're just kind of, you're doing your baking, and you're doing your thing, and you're doing music and your stuff in the world, and you're so wise, and you're so awakened, and you're just this humble person, and no, probably people wouldn't have a clue your beautiful spiritual background and your wisdom and your experience of being all the time. I mean, to me, you're such a beautiful example for all of us how we can live. You know, we
Well,
can
thank you.
we can
Mm.
awaken within our life, awaken within ourselves, experience this being, and go on and live our life. Go
Yeah.
on and, go to our
Right.
job and interact with
Yeah.
people, but we can awaken in this being, awaken in who we really are, and still function in our life. As the Zen
Yeah.
saying goes, before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment,
After enlightenment.
chop wood,
Yeah.
carry water. And
Yeah.
so you're such a beautiful example of that. And so I'm just so happy to have this conversation with you because it just reminds me of the beautiful, beautiful being that you are.
Oh, thank you. That's very kind of you.
And
Um,
it's
there have been times in my life when I thought, well, geez, couldn't I do something more grand than being a chef or working in a bakery? Wouldn't it, be nice to have a more lofty occupation? And I remember reading somewhere, I don't know whether I read this or someone said this to me, that the greatest saints walk this earth doing things that are very ordinary, going about their life in a very ordinary way. And that was comforting for my ego.
and I think that's the life you chose, isn't it? I mean,
Mm,
if we choose our life before coming into this incarnation, then that would be the life you chose, to go through these powerful spiritual awakenings and teachings and all these things, and then to just go and find a simple life and live your life, and it's almost like you're testing it out now. You're testing out, okay, how can I stay in that being no matter what's
Yeah.
going on around me, and what so that's what you came to learn about.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Activity
that's
is just like is your dharma. What's your dharma? And that's just what comes natural. And if we pay attention, and I think one of the other things about meditation is learning to be quiet. And in that quiet, there's always the guidance. Do this, do this, do this, do this. And it's very clear. It's not like mystical. It's like, this is what you should be doing right now. And it just feels like, oh, that's the right thing to do. And that is dharma, doing that which comes most natural. Just what comes most natural. So there's no fight, there's no push, there's no shove, there's no striving. It's just, oh, okay, this is my role. I had a friend who was a monk for a while, and he had come back from an ashram, and he thought, oh God, I have to go out and earn money now. I said, no, you have to go out and do your seva. You have to give service to your community in the same way that you did in your ashram. You meditate every day, and then you went out and you did service. You worked in the kitchen. I don't know, you worked in administration. You did some service. Now in the world, do the same thing. Do your seva. What is your gift to your community? Think of it that way. Much different than I have to earn money. And money will be there.
do you feel that when you're doing your baking and your
Yeah, it's very, yeah, I
pastry
don't,
chef?
my day goes pretty easily.
Do you enjoy it?
Oh yeah, it's fun. It's fun. I think kitchens are my social place because I'm not a social person by nature. I'm very reclusive, but in the kitchen, I'm very sociable. Hi, how you doing? Blah, blah, blah. Try this, try that. It is the thing also when we talk about the Brahmin thing is that you feed people. What is a more nourishing thing? A more caring and loving thing is to feed people, right? When we teach them meditate, we nourish their soul. When we feed them, we nourish their bodies. But it's always on the level of nourishing.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Nourishing with chocolate brownies and
Yes.
with delicious pastries.
Yeah. You feed your emotional body.
Yes. Yes.
You think about that, right? Because okay, so you have a cooking show, right? You teach people how to prepare food, right? So do you talk about that? I mean, because there is a part of you that is, you're not just a physical being, you're not just a machine that needs to be fed in a particular way. This is important that you eat, healthy food, but there is an emotional side that needs to be nourished, and that's where the little
Yes.
sweets come from.
Yes.
I'm not talking about eating a lot, like a little sweet.
Mm-hmm.
For the emotional body. I think there's something
Yes.
satisfying about that.
Very satisfying. I think the little child in us needs that sometimes.
Yeah.
The comforting, the comfort
Right.
food.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't want to become too rigid.
No.
It's kind of
No.
like, yeah, I think it's important.
I've I was diabetic for a few years, and
Okay.
I've had to stop having any kind of sugar,
Mm.
but I've figured out how to have chocolate pudding and chocolate ice cream and some of my favorite treats with using something else other than sugar. I just use bananas or some figs or something.
Yeah.
And so you can still have those yummy treats,
Yeah.
and but you can figure out ways that work with your body,
Mhm. One of the beautiful things about Ayurveda in terms of food is that it appeals to all the senses. It
Yes.
looks good, it smells good, it tastes good. Oh my God, this is
Yes.
delicious.
Yes.
It has
Yes.
to have that. It is delicious. I mean, I
Yes.
suppose there are times when we need to take medicine and it's not very pleasant, but in terms of your daily food, it should be, oh my God, this is delicious. I think that has to be there.
I
And then
think so.
because the body's always reproducing itself.
Yes.
So if the psychology is, I really don't like this, but I think it's good for me, I don't think it produces healthy cells.
That's right.
If the mind is saying, whoa, this is delicious, then I think we're producing health.
Yes. Good point. Good point. It has to nourish the mind as well. Nourish the
Yeah.
mind and the body. Nourish all of it. And then you feel complete and full in
Yeah.
that nourishment. And so what do you eat, Alan? You're a vegetarian, are you?
Oh, yeah. Mhm.
So tell me, what is your like main diet that you have?
Oh, lots of fruits and vegetables, and then rice as a starch, tofu or dal or lentils, like that. That comprises most of my diet.
What do you eat
Mostly
for breakfast?
like mostly a smoothie, like fruit.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, maybe some cereal I'll put in, some like a wheat cereal or something. But yeah,
Are you vegan? Do you eat dairy?
yeah, but not a lot.
Okay.
Not a lot.
Do you eat
But
eggs?
yeah, only if it looks like a cookie.
Yeah, you have eggs in all the stuff you make, so you have to be able to eat them.
I remember somebody gave Marcy a cake or something like that, and somebody said, "Oh, Marcy, don't eat that; it has eggs in it." And he said, "I don't see any eggs."
And then he ate it?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Are eggs good for you? I don't know.
Occasionally.
But do I eat a cookie? Yes. Do I have a piece of cake once in a while? Yes. Do I eat ice cream sometimes? Yes.
Nice.
Yeah. But my 95% diet is pretty healthy.
Rice, dal, and vegetables.
Yeah. Variations of rice and vegetables, I would say. It's different starches too. I'll have pasta sometimes too, or anything like that. But yeah, a lot of vegetables, a lot of fruits.
Beautiful.
Yeah, not complicated. I don't eat it in a very
Simple.
complicated way. Sometimes just a big salad with like an avocado in there, and
Mm,
you know,
beautiful.
yeah.
Do you think that's a big part of why you feel youthful and light?
Well, I think it's got to play a large role in it. I mean, certainly diet is important, and yeah, yeah. I'm kind of lucky, I suppose. I mean, again, in about 50 years ago, I decided I was going to be a vegetarian. And it was lucky in the way that it worked with my body, because not everybody can be a vegetarian. I always tell people the Dalai Lama is not a vegetarian. He
Huh.
eats meat.
Does he? I didn't know that.
Yeah. Well, think about it. He's from Tibet. There's not a lot of fresh vegetables in Tibet.
Yeah, right,
You'd
right,
die. And
right.
so he required to eat meat. So it's not necessarily becoming a vegetarian is right for everyone. I don't think it is, but it is for me. And
Yes.
diet is very individual. It
Very
depends on
individual.
your body type. It depends
Yep.
on where you are in your evolution.
Yep. That's
Um,
true.
yeah. So it changes.
Yeah,
So, and again, just
absolutely.
being present with your body.
Listening to
Response.
what your body responds well to. How
Yeah.
do you feel after you eat? Do you feel good or not so good? And go
Yeah.
with that kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Do you feel clear? Do you feel energized?
Yes,
And
exactly.
there you go. You don't have to throw all the books away. Listen, listen to Tracy. Listen to what Tracy tells you.
Oh, well, Alan, are you ready to play something?
Sure.
Oh, we're so lucky today to have the beautiful guitarist, Alan Miceli. I've known him for 36 years and I've been a fan of his music for all that time. He's a gifted guitarist. And thank you, Alan, for being here to share your gift with us today.
You're welcome. Okay. This is called Landscapes.
Beautiful, Alan. So, so beautiful. Beautiful. Can
And
you
this
tell
is
us a
called,
little bit? Okay, can you tell us a little bit about what that was about for you? Why is it called Landscapes?
it's just a feeling that the music presents to me. Usually when I write a piece of music, afterwards I sit with it and I think, well, what does it feel like? What does it sound like to me? And the word landscapes came to mind, and that's what I went with. And again, the music just comes out of the music itself, with me playing with sounds. So yeah, that's how it
Be-
came up.
Beautiful, beautiful. Is there any last words, Alan Miceli, that you would like to offer to our listeners today that can really help them with their awakening journey?
The quote from the Gita is my favorite: established in being, perform action. It's beautiful. It's all, everything is in that one phrase, you know. In any way that is suitable to you, find being in your life, the essence of life, and own it and have it with you at every moment of life, and then just live your life, live your life in a very natural way without strain. And that is the key to life: established in being, perform action. Beautiful.
Beautiful,
Yeah, it's a
beautiful.
lovely saying.
That's absolutely one of my favorite as well.
Yeah,
So
says everything. Yeah,
perfect way to end this
yeah.
conversation we've had today. What a great conversation. You brought out such juicy wisdom today.
Well, I hope it's of some help to the people that listen to this,
Yes,
because I mean, we have an obligation, right, as people that are spiritual, to help those who ask, not to
right.
impose it, but if people ask, is to share what we know.
Yes,
It's an obligation. I always felt that when I became a meditation instructor, that I was obligated to teach anybody who asked me.
yes,
Obligation.
yes. I agree with you.
Never to say no, regardless, but yeah, obligation. So yeah.
I agree. And I think that's where this show came out of, Adventures in Awakening, because I felt that I've been privileged to be around some very wise, enlightened beings in my life. And the knowledge that I gained, I just feel like it needs to be shared. It needs to get out there.
Yeah.
And so, as much as we can share with each other the wisdom that we've learned, the more that we can help each other in our
Yeah.
awakening journey, you know?
Right.
So I just want to say, Alan, thank you so much for joining us today. It was such a pleasure to see you. And
Yeah.
thank you for sharing your music with us. Wow. So, so beautiful, so subtle, and so vibrationally pure and beautiful. And it's so
Yeah.
uplifting.
Well, thank you for inviting me. It's been fun.
It has been fun. So we'll have to do this
Yeah,
again soon.
we will.
For more information on Alan Miceli, you can go to his website. Yes, Alan, what's your website?
AlanMiceli.com.
alanmiceli.com. It'll be shown below. And if you would like to hear more of Alan Miceli's music, how can they find out about that, Alan?
All of the media platforms carry my music: iTunes, Spotify, you name it. I
So
always
you
tell people,
just
yeah,
so just look up Alan Miceli on any of your favorite music platforms, and he will be there. He has 4 albums out. Check them out. They're each of one of them is magnificent, and he has more music coming out all the time. So thank you so much, Alan.
all right,
Once again, we love you so much, and we will see you again soon.
all right. Love you too, Tracy. Bye.
Bye-bye, sweetheart. Thank you for joining us for the Adventures in Awakening show. For more information, go to our website, adventuresinawakeningacademy.org. I'm Tracia Spring, and wishing you a glorious day.